gonna refute the claim that from my classmate that SeaWorld and other marine park and aquariums are not treating their marine animals humanely. Her arguments for her secondary claim started off with the one that said marine animals are captured from the wild and harmed in the process. I thought this to be a challenge to reasoning of claim of fact. I thought that, or I found that this I found the source to say we have developed thriving breeding programs for killer whales, dolphins, sea lions, and other species. In fact, more than 80% of marine animals at our parks were born in the care of humans. The animals born in our parks help scientists study development and growth rates that would otherwise be difficult or impossible to research in the wild. This was a study done on PBS, and with that, it just showed that they're actually finding more development in breeding orcas and like actually helping them out by actually breeding them like in aquariums and where they can study them opposed to the wild. Our next claim of fact was the captive marine animals experience stress and anxiety. I thought this to be a challenge to, I've challenged to facts. The animals actually developed or that grow up in aquariums are actually they're actually more easily accustomed to the environment they're in, and it's not required by anywhere for them to be because one of her facts said that they need to be they travel like up to 100 miles in the ocean, and this was proven wrong by CNN, and they had this article that said that they actually don't have the need to go like that far in the water. It's just like since they're in the ocean, they're gonna keep going. Her third claim of fact was marine animals of SeaWorld are fed poor diets. She stated specifically that they had a diet of pig and cow bones. This actually. This was actually, there's actually no proof that pig and cow bones are bad for the sea animals. This was, she found, this was cited from PETA. And they actually had, actually found an article on an article called A Whale of a Business on PBS that said that animal health team and scientists of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment have contributed to more than 300 published studies that advance the global scientific community's understanding of animals. So actually having them breed in the aquarium where they can watch them, they can actually see what kind of food they actually gain more out of, which actually helps them more. And it also leads back to breeding, where they could actually breed the animals to actually live longer and have healthier lives. Her fourth claim of fact was captive orcas are not living as long compared to wild orcas. One of her facts was more than 100 cases of orca aggression was found. This was actually proven on research by SeaWorld Cares. They stated that it actually doesn't. The reporter on the topic said, I think the sensitivity that people develop just out of close contact of animals, you just have to go out to a community pool and see the eyes of children light up when they touch a dolphin for the first time. That's an experience for many people that one touch will last a lifetime. I found this to show that they actually They actually found cases where people are actually learning more about these orcas in this situation. And her last main fact was captive orcas are not living as long as compared. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
All right, you started off structurally easy to follow. It got a little confusing at the end because it sounded like you are repeating points, and there was one spot where you basically made the same argument again about researching on the animals, I think on the third point that you'd made on the first point. On the captivity issue, I thought that you had a nice statistic that suggested that most of the animals in the parks are in fact bred in captivity, and there's an advantage to doing that, and as a consequence that suggests that they aren't really having the harms that the advocate talked about that comes in capturing the animals. I think that that's what the advocate's argument was, but I didn't hear you kind of applying it in that particular situation. We're just going to have to make that inference ourselves. The stress and anxiety issue, I thought that you did an okay job talking about that. You cited the CNN article a couple of times. You want to have direct quotes from these sources because it sounds to me like you're paraphrasing what's being said there, and I think that that's a little problematic, but it sounds like there's a good response here, and that is that they don't really need to swim 100 miles. The fact that they do has less to do with the fact that less to do with needing to do, and rather just it's in front of them, that they survive perfectly well. You didn't, when you got to the longevity issue at the bottom, you had a different argument that you're making rather than longevity, and it seems like that might be attached to this particular point. The diet issue comes down to, well, there's nothing wrong with pig and cow bones, and I guess maybe there isn't if it sounds like you're going to make a challenge against PETA, but you never really talk about whether or not they're credible or whether or not the information that they're citing suggests that there is any particular danger. Then you cite information that talks about how there's a benefit from having the animals in these captive breeding programs because we learned from that, which I think applies to the above argument. I'm not sure how it applies to this particular argument. And then on the longevity issue, like I said before, you talk about how people care more about the animals as a consequence of having encountered them in these circumstances. And I think that's a good counter argument. I don't think it addresses the issue of longevity. It might address the issue of whether or not we are going to make any additional effort or whether there's a benefit from having SeaWorld have these animals there. I think that's kind of a rebuttal argument that stands alone. It doesn't really address the longevity issue. You have a tendency not to look at the audience, and you need to practice a little bit more. Okay, thank you.